के रखना कमाल ये है, हवा की जिद पे दिया जलाना, जला के रखना कमाल ये है। जरा सी लग़ज़िश पे तोड़ देते हैं सब ताल्लुक ज़माने वाले, जरा सी लग़ज़िश पे तोड़ देते हैं सब ताल्लुक ज़माने वाले, है सब ताल्लुक ज़माने वाले। सो ऐसे वैसों से भी ताल्लुक बना के रखना कमाल ये है, खज़ां की रुत में गुलाब लहजा बना के रखना कमाल ये है, हवा की जिद पे दिया जलाना, जला के रखना कमाल ये है, कमाल ये है, कमाल ये है। किसी को देना ये मशवरा के वो दुख बिछड़ने का भूल।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to The Great Muslim Marriage Search with myself, Mufti Taiba Afzal, on Salam BCR, where I'm joined by special guests. We have Brother Muhammad from, who is the CEO of Single Muslim Marriage Events UK, and also we have Mufti Hamza Ahmed Saab, who is the director of Sunnah Nikah UK. So, welcome, assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khair for coming. Apologies for the technical issues, and if you can just take yourselves off mute and let me know if you can hear me okay.
Coming nice and clear. Jazakallah. Wa alaikum salam.
Okay.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yeah, perfect.
I can hear you clearly.
Great. Okay, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wahda wassalatu wassalam ala man la nabiyya ba'da. So nikah, marriage, and nikah min sunnati, faman raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni. So the Prophet ﷺ said, nikah is my sunnah, it's my way, and whoever turns away from my sunnah is not from me. So of course we all know the importance of marriage. We all know that we can't just be with each other in any way, just the way that animals are. We have to, there's a way to everything, and the way for Muslims is we have to have marriage. So the first topic that we need to discuss is why is marriage really, really important for us Muslims, and why is it that we should get married as soon as possible. So let's start with Mufti Hamza.
The purpose of marriage. Jazakallah for having us on the show. So the purpose of marriage, the reason why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Islam encourages marriage. First of all, starting with Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam. And after creating Adam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a spouse, gave him a partner, that was Hawa. And he got them married in Jannah. And this is the teaching that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the beginning, initially from the get-go, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us that a person, a man needs a woman and a woman needs a man, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this system to teach us that this is how life goes on. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us in his lifestyle, in his sunnah, that a person gets married, and one of the many wisdom behind getting married is that a person finds peace, a person finds contentment, a person finds satisfaction, and the other one is that a person has a partner to grow with in taqwa, in iman, in a'mal. When a person has someone that is so closely knit to themselves, they are able to communicate with each other, they are able to remind each other, they are able to spend the rest of their lives together reminding each other about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the things that specializes us as the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we encourage each other, amar bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar, And this is not just for others, this is first and foremost for ourselves as individuals. We need someone to remind us. It's not something that is, what do you call, outgoing. It's actually more of a receiving thing. So for us to be able to go out and remind others of good and forbid others from haram, first and foremost, we need to fix ourselves. And this partner and this relationship of marriage, it is only possible to do this. Because we see as we grow older, our siblings, they slowly begin to separate in their own ways. We see our parents slowly, they become aged and then they find their own ways. And so it leaves us alone. And this partner, the spouse that we have, whether it's a wife or a husband, they become the closest to each other to be able to support each other in fulfilling the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Nikahu min sunnati." And in another narration, he says that, فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. That whoever objects or whoever leaves the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is no longer from the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Over to you, Brother Muhammad. I mean, from your experience with your organization, why would you say it's really important for Muslims?
First of all, Assalamu alaikum to everybody, and Jazakallah khair for having me on the show. In conjunction with what Mufti Sahib just said, I would say that he reminded me of one of the narrations on the hadith where of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where we had three men and they were saying that I'm not going to fast and trying to get reward, and I'm not going to I'm going to fast every day, and I'm going to not sleep and pray all night, and I'm not going to get married for the sake of Allah. And that the Prophet responded to that saying that, look, I'm the most pious, and I fast and I break my fast, I pray and I sleep and I marry women. So that in itself signifies the importance of marriage within the religion. Going back to the question of in terms of what we do and my experiences, the truth of the matter is we live at a time where committing sin in this context is very easy and free of charge, to be quite honest with you. And I'd say that it's so important to get married no matter what stage you are at your life, as long as you are marriageable age, because it will protect you from sinning. To put it in very simple terms, it will protect you from going down wrongful routes, which could have very, very long-term consequences. So and I think the benefits of getting married it outweighs the disadvantages. Growing together, growing in the religion together, protecting each other's chastity and things like that. So those are the things I would mention in summary.
Yeah, absolutely, Jazakallah. I think that's a beautiful hadith there that you mentioned, and absolutely, the most important thing, apart from the enjoyment and all the peace and everything, the most important thing is keeping ourselves away from haram, because we make halal so hard that haram becomes easy for everyone. Everyone just thinks, oh well, I can't get married, well, let's just do this. So what do you say for those people who are they've got some obstacles right now, they cannot get married, maybe it's the family or this and that? What do you think what should they be doing, again in the light of the sunnah, or just in our experiences? What do you think they should do?
Is that a question to me?
It's to any of you.
I'll go first, and then we can have Mufti Sahib take me afterwards. What I would say is that you talk about obstacles. The truth of the matter is, in this day and age, and perhaps in the last 15-20 years, the difficulty of getting married and the complexity behind it is absolutely gigantic. In fact, I would actually call it a pandemic, because we have so many brothers and sisters who are looking for marriage, well-intentioned, but unfortunately, they've been looking for maybe some 2 years, in our experiences, up to 10 to 12 years, and they're unable to find a spouse. So when it comes to the obstacles, I can write a book on this. But in summary, I would probably say, number one, a lot of the brothers and sisters perhaps look for the wrong things, or look for the things that are a little bit unrealistic. So, for example, social media could have an impact deriving from that in the first place. So they look at social media and they think that's what I want. But unfortunately, social media has fake elements attached to it, as we all know. So in reality, what they're looking for is something that doesn't exist. So when they're in the search, they don't find it and they remain unmarried. The other obstacles that people face is family pressure, which has a backward step. It kind of shoots one in the foot. And as I mentioned, unrealistic criteria, or shall I say?
The obstacles, we will be coming to that. What I meant was, my question was, what should they do currently whilst they're not married to protect themselves from haram?
Well, I mean, coming from my perspective, what they should do if they are at marriageable age is keep themselves busy, and in so that they're not thinking about any haram avenues, and most simply fast, to protect yourself from anything that may provoke your desires in a wrongful way. That could be, for example, following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, meaning fasting Mondays and Thursdays, and focusing on the religion, and being sincere and worshipping Allah alone. These things one should do. And if they are looking for marriage, use the right methodologies to find marriage. That's what I would say in summary.
Absolutely.
If I can just add from that. So Islam is a very realistic religion, and the guidance that Islam gives is very real, is very practical. And so if I understood Sister Mufti Sahiba's question properly, that some people are currently looking, but they're not finding, they're looking in halal means, but they're not finding their partner. And it does take, like Brother Muhammad just said, it takes time. In that time, what do they do? So there's a few things that Islam guides us to do. One of them, very correctly, Brother Muhammad said, is to fast. Now, fasting, before we come to fasting, we need to understand that nikah is not just a sunnah. On the outskirts of it, yes. On the very outline of Islam, nikah is sunnah. But when we look at it in an individual case, it changes. For some people, it becomes wajib. And for some people, it becomes haram. So, like we see in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, many Sahaba came and they said, "This is what I have, and I want to get married." Rasulullah said, "No, first you need to get a job. First you need to do this, and then you'll get married. Your financial status is not ready yet. You're not capable." And then there's other situations, medical situations where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "You're not fit. You're not fit for marriage." And then other cases where they are in need of getting married, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even waived the mahar for them, because the need is such. And this is the one that we're talking about. So when there is a crisis of such nature, and there is, unfortunately, there are certain topics that may not be so comfortable to talk about, but because halal is quite a little bit difficult. And I wouldn't say with halal, the reality is, yes, halal will come with a little bit of difficulty, definitely. Just look at our chicken and meat, in this country. Halal comes at a price. Of course, it will come at a price. It's not that easy. But in those times, that is the test. If it was so easy, everyone would practice it. Everyone would be a practicing Muslim. It is a little bit difficult, but that difficulty that you're taking on for the sake of Allah, you're taking on for the sake of Allah, and this is what you're being rewarded for. You're being rewarded for waiting for the right partner to come along. It's not just pick anyone from the streets and just marry them. You have to look for the right candidate, someone that is compatible with you. Yes, again, in that we need balance. Now, like Brother Muhammad said, from our experience, we'll come to that inshallah when Mufti Sahiba says, but there are difficulties. We need to find balance in that too. Compatibility is there in Islam, but to a level, to a certain degree. What is important, we need to put that ahead, inshallah. Okay, but in the meantime, so fasting, we mentioned fasting. I'll just talk on that, and then inshallah.
Yeah,
So
we'll just
fasting,
take a break
Rasulullah
soon as
sallallahu
well,
alaihi
so-
wasallam said, "Alaykum bis-sawm," that a person has to take on fasting according to his or her level of need. So alaykum comes for overcoming ourselves with fasting. So for some people, yes, fasting Mondays and Thursdays might work, but for other people, you might need to fast consecutively, and it comes with a diet too. You need to be careful what you eat. You need to be careful how you socialize and how you go about your day. And Rasulullah said, lower your gazes. This is another teaching. It's very difficult. I understand it is very difficult in this country, especially when the sun's out and the summer, it's very difficult, unfortunately. But these are teachings of Islam. If somebody wants to really practice Islam and go about it the Islamic way, then we need to be careful with what we use our eyes for. We need to be careful with how we consume the food. And at the same time, pray a lot to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah make it easy.
Okay. ٹھیک ہے جزاک اللہ خیر. سامعین, we will be taking a short break here. Do stay with us, and we do want you to call in as well. The number is 0799026414. Do call in and share your thoughts after the break, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
سن رہے ہو؟ جی ہاں، اسی طرح ہزاروں اور بھی سننے والے ہیں. آپ کے کاروبار کی کامیابی کا راز سلام BCR. سنتے رہیے سلام BCR.
This is Project Radio, online, on air, everywhere.
السلام علیکم، میں ہوں جان ریمبو، اور آپ میری آواز اس وقت جس ریڈیو اسٹیشن پر سن رہے ہیں اس کا نام ہے اسلام BCR. اسلام BCR کی تمام ٹیم کو اور تمام سننے والوں کو میرا پیار بھرا سلام. تو سنتے رہیے اسلام BCR.
السلام علیکم پیارے دوستو، میں سخاوت ناز تے سن دے رہو سلام BCR.
میں انی البیلا. سنتے رہیے سلام BCR.
Want to be on radio? Then log into our website www.project29.org.uk and email me Aidan for more details.
ضرورت ہے مکان یا فلیٹ کرائے کے لیے. اٹینشن لینڈ لارڈز اینڈ ٹیننٹس، اگر آپ اپنا مکان یا فلیٹ کرائے پر دینا چاہتے ہیں تو آج ہی سلام BCR کی ٹیم سے رابطہ کیجیے. مزید معلومات کے لیے اس نمبر پر واٹس ایپ میسج کریں یا کال 0791-262-2961. نمبر یاد رہے 0791-262-2961. ہاں، we cover all areas across Greater Manchester.
ہمارا مشن اللہ کی رضا، محمد سے وفا، پاکستان کا دفاع. ہم ہیں سلام BCR.
یہ مشورہ کہ وہ دکھ بچھڑنے کا بھول جائے، وہ دکھ بچھڑنے کا بھول جائے، اور ایسے لمحے میں اپنے آنسو چھپا کے رکھنا کمال یہ ہے. خزاں کی رت میں گلاب لہجہ بنا کے رکھنا کمال یہ ہے. ہوا کی ضد پہ دیا جلانا، جلا کے رکھنا کمال یہ ہے. کمال یہ ہے، کمال یہ ہے، کمال یہ ہے، کمال یہ ہے. خیال اپنا، مزاج اپنا، پسند اپنی، کمال کیا ہے. خیال اپنا، مزاج اپنا، پسند اپنی، کمال کیا ہے. پسند اپنی، کمال کیا ہے. جو مولا چاہے وہ حال اپنا بنا کے رکھنا کمال یہ ہے. خزاں کی رت میں گلاب لہجہ بنا کے رکھنا کمال یہ ہے. ہوا کی ضد پہ دیا جلانا، جلا کے رکھنا کمال یہ ہے. کمال یہ ہے، کمال یہ ہے. کسی کی
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're listening to the Great Muslim Marriage Search with myself, Mufti Taiba Afzal, on Salam BCR, where I'm joined by special guests from Sunnah Nikah and also from Muslim marriage events. Continuing our conversation, we have received some text messages from people. However, it's such a long text message that I don't think I will be able to read that. There's lots of tips that someone has sent, that we should create a list of a practical partner criteria, improve oneself, of course, etc. So yeah, Jazakallah khair for your message, and yeah, keep the calls coming and the texts coming. So moving on from our topic before the break, what we were saying is that we should try to do whatever it takes to maintain ourselves in a halal manner, so we don't fall into haram. So whether that's lowering the gaze, fasting, or taking up hobbies, etc., whatever it takes, we need to do that, because of course we cannot afford to do haram. Many times people say, well, it's normal, everybody does it, but it's totally whether the whole world was to do it, if it's haram, it's haram, full stop. So whether you're in the privacy of your home and you're doing something haram, or whether you're doing it in public, it is wrong, and we need to stop this. So coming back to what we can do now, what is the current situation, what are the services available in UK? So here, both of our guests, if you can tell us about yourselves and what you do, what service you provide. Brother Muhammad, maybe you can start.
Okay. So I run an organization called Single Muslims Marriage Events. Just to be clear, that's very different to singlemuslim.com. So we are Single Muslims Marriage Events .co.uk. So what effectively I did back in 2018 was to try and come up with a new concept of how to run marriage events. Marriage events already existed. I didn't create them. But what I did was come up with a concept to help British Muslims get married, so to provide a platform through this event to help them get married. So what we do, in effect, is so for example, we have an event tomorrow in the city of Manchester, which incorporates brothers and sisters coming to attend this event as a platform to find marriage, and it's a very family-oriented event. We specifically advocate finding a spouse in the correct way, in the sense that what we say is, if there's a match, then there has got to be family involvement right from the outset. This family involvement could be, for example, the brother's sister and the girl's sister exchange numbers. So two girls exchange numbers, and then they take it from there. Or it could be the girl's dad or the girl's brother or the brother's parents, etc. They exchange numbers, and that's how the match works. But what we do is provide that platform in different cities. People attend, and it's a very designed, it's a structured event in which people can help themselves get married. And just in conjunction with that, we also do a lot on our Instagram page. What we have is something called the Muslive marriage interviews, where, for example, a brother can come on the live. It's up to him whether he shows his face or not. And I ask him, it's like a discussion about himself and about what he's looking for in marriage. And if anybody then takes interest, they contact us. This is all free, by the way. And we say, okay, family numbers, and then we leave it to them. We also have on the social media Muslive debates, in which, by the way, sisters can come on the Muslive marriage interview as well, but just they can't show their faces, like a podcast for them. And then we have the Muslive debates, where we have discussions around a topical scenario, such as living with in-laws, or what makes marriage difficult. And you can have 3 people on the live at the same time whilst I'm a host. So that also leads to matches. And we also created on Instagram something called the talking profiles, in which a brother or a sister talks about what themselves and what they look for in a couple of minutes, and then that is posted on my page, and it helps British Muslims get married. So in effect, that's what we do. Alhamdulillah, we've got quite a few brothers and sisters married via our platform.
Okay, so with the events that you mentioned, so how do they, is it that the people have to move from table to table?
Yeah, so what we do in our events is that we offer the all attendees an opportunity to speak to someone on a one-to-one basis and in a group discussion. As I said, it's very monitored. So yes, it will be you can call it a group rotation and a one-to-one rotation system. It's monitored. It's designed to extract personalities out and designed to help people get married through the correct way, if you like.
Okay. So on these programs that you have, what sort of people attend? Meaning, is it older? Is it people who have got children? Is it more women? Is it what's the demographics?
So it's each event attracts different kind of people. So it's I wouldn't say there's an average type of person that comes. The truth of the matter is, in every Muslim family, there's always somebody looking for marriage. So typically we can have anybody who's either single, never married, widowed, with or without children, divorced, with or without children. They can happily attend. Our conditions are they must be Muslim, of course, they must be British, and of course they must be looking for marriage, currently unmarried. So it's open to all British parties. We can get anyone from the age range of 18 up into 50, to be quite honest with you, and the rest is up to Allah.
Okay. So over to you, Mufti Hamza.
We started, it started with Maulana Anas, who's not here today, who was supposed to come today, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. He's been doing it since the 90s. He's been doing it even without the technology that we have today. People, because he was an imam and then he was a scholar, he used to give speeches everywhere. People used to contact him, and he knew families and families knew him, so he'd just pass on CVs. CVs were not the CVs that we know as for work, searching for work. It's just basic information about the person. So whatever they wanted to share about their personality, about their height, about their family structure, all sorts of things people put in, their qualifications sometimes, what job they have, what after marriage, how they're going to live and things like this. That's a CV, a very basic CV. And then he would just pass those on to by text messages. So when it came to, I think it came about 2000, when WhatsApp started groups, he thought of putting all his numbers rather than doing it individually. I remember he used to sit down and literally go through every single person's number and then text them individually, and he would do that for hundreds of contacts. When WhatsApp groups came, he just put everyone into that one group, and he told everyone, he gave a template that this is what you need to fill in and put it into that group. So everyone would drop their CVs, and then whoever liked whoever, they would contact each other. And so this is what's happening. But that, alhamdulillah, when it started, it took off really quickly because of the need that was there. And we started off with one group. I think at that time, one group, there was about 150 or something capacity, maximum capacity, and then the group grew. But as the participants began to join, we seen that there's there was a demographic kind of thing. So there was a lot of people who were from Manchester who had no relevance or no interest in people from Portsmouth and far south, and the far south didn't have any relevance to the Midlands, and so the groups became more specific. So there was the Midlands, the North, and the South, and then within these three groups there were the Indians, the Pakistani, and the Bangladeshis. So then each three became another three, so that was 9. And then from there, like Brother Muhammad said, there were those who were widowed or divorced. And then within the divorce, there were those who were with children or without children. And then in the academia, there were those who were in the professional fields, and there were those who weren't in the professional fields. So like that, right now we have somewhere the north of 38 to 40 groups catering for individual needs of particular groups. So we have the North, the Midlands, and the South. And then in each category, we have the professionals, the divorcees with children, and then Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani. This is the three main ones that we have contacts with, but we do also have the reverts, we have the Somalian group, we have the different ethnicities. So we have now we have slowly the Turkish and the Arab continent slowly coming in as well. So there, there isn't. It's hard to specify. There's all sorts of needs, and even with the age groups, we just recently had a 52-year-old get married, alhamdulillah. So that will come when you talk about setting criteria. So a 52-year-old, mashallah, he got married, and he spoke to us from his honeymoon, mashallah, that he's married, alhamdulillah. So. So it does cater for everyone. Yearly, we have around 200 to 300 marriages. It doesn't work more on a weekly. Or some months is more than others, but on a yearly average, we have about 200 to 300 marriages. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, mashallah. Okay, that's great. And so, how do people join? It's just if they get hold of that link, they can just press it.
WhatsApp link, yes.
And with yours, Brother Muhammad, they have to go on the website, and there's a fee to pay to sign up.
Yeah, so all of this that I've told you, the WhatsApp, there's no fee.
Yours is free.
This is all free.
I'm talking about Brother Muhammad. I think there's a fee for yours for the events.
Brother Muhammad.
So for events, they need to go on our website or our Instagram page. Yes, there is a fee, and that fee varies depending on which venue we've hired. But anything on Instagram or social media is absolutely free.
That's all free. Okay, right. So on to the topic of what are the problems for finding a spouse? Now, from the women's side, I will let you know that women always say that the moment that they have children, they get rejected by everyone. Say, oh, she's got children. Okay. I mean, all types of people reject them. Religious people, non-religious people. What do you find? What are the barriers?
That is true, and I mean. I don't know how to resolve that. Obviously, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Islamic way, or from the Islamic perspective, it is a huge khidmah, it is a huge reward, but it does come with its difficulties as well. It's just going to happen like that. Unless, I mean, we have had people that are interested in getting married to, because both sides are divorcees, but it's very unlikely that someone that's never married before would marry a divorcee that has children.
Absolutely. That's understandable. But many times people who are married and they are divorced, they have their own children, but they still want to reject a woman who has children.
I guess that would come with, like I said, when it comes to practicality, like so he has 2 children and say she has 2 children, so that is a little bit difficult for both of them to come in, because they both have 2 responsibilities themselves. How much can they commit to the marriage and to each other? Practically, it is difficult. We have had these discussions with the divorcees that you've put in, because what we have is in the template they fill in a CV for themselves, and then they fill in the other CV of what they're expecting to find. So we have a slot where it says, would you accept a divorcee? Would you accept a divorcee with children? And so we see this nearly all the time. I mean, mashallah, there are a few that do say, yes, I have children, but I don't mind marrying a woman that is a divorcee with children. And some that don't have children are not in the problem of that as well. They say, I don't have children, I'm a divorcee, but I don't mind taking someone that has children. We do have those.
I mean, from an Islamic perspective, I want to really clarify that there is no mahram problem. People say, oh no, she's got a daughter, so I can't get married to her. There's no problem. The moment you marry her, her daughter is like your daughter. There's no issue. So like the Sahabiyat, so many times they would marry one husband, then the husband would be shaheed, he would be martyred, or he would give them divorce, no problem. She wasn't tarnished or anything. And then she would marry again, and then the same would happen again. She would marry again, 4 husbands they would have. And what about their children? So we need to look at that, and we really need to dispel this mentality that if she's got a daughter, if you older daughter, how can I get married? If you have children as a man, then how could you turn away someone with a woman? Actually, looking at the responsibility for a woman, it's her responsibility to look after her children until the age of 7, and again, it's still the responsibility of the father to pay for everything. After
Yes.
7, she shouldn't even be looking after them. They should be looked after by the husband. Okay, so therefore she would be free to marry. But
She
again,
is free,
in
yeah,
our
yeah.
community, if
Yeah,
she was
it's a
to
very
give up her
cultural thing.
children
It's
to
a-
her
it's a stigma.
husband, to her ex-husband, she would be looked down upon as what a bad mother she is. That why did she leave to get married? Whereas Islamically, it's not even her duty.
No, it's not.
So we need to change these mentalities so that we can, again, we're talking about keeping things halal, and this is the way. If we're going to make it so difficult for people,
Yeah.
then how could people find halal? Brother
No,
Muhammad,
this is of course,
anything
this
you
is
want to say?
a huge, like I said, in Islamically, it's a huge reward. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave such high statuses to people who support women who are divorcees, or even the father who takes back the daughter who is a divorcee
Absolutely.
and takes care of her. This is huge. It's not an Islamic thing. It's a very cultural.
It's a cultural thing, yeah, absolutely.
Is just our thinking that is totally wrong. Like Mufti Sahiba, you said regarding having a daughter. That doesn't have an issue at all. That's Islamically, there's no problem there. It's more to do with personal issues or taking up responsibility. This is what it is. But of course, Islamically, the reward is huge, and we will encourage the brothers to take this. Especially, if you haven't had children, this is a blessing. This is a huge reward. You will get the reward of bringing up the children, teaching them Deen, teaching them Islam, and historically, if we look back at those who did take care of somebody else's children,
we've got a
usually
call
those
coming
children become
through.
more useful to them.
Sorry, we've got a call coming through. I'll just put them on. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Salam BCR. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Salam BCR. Can you hear us? What would you like to say?
Yeah, I can hear you. My name is Sadia. I just wanted to join in the conversation is because I have got experience of being on Single Muslim, Musmarch, and various other all these and the events as well. The marriage events.
Okay.
So yeah, I just want to share that. What I've learned is that the Asian mentality is that if you have children and you have a man who's got children as well, the man will think that this is another man's child. Why should I look after another man's child? But a woman will want to look after his children. So what basically it is that if a male wants to get married, the women will accept his children, but the males, they won't accept a woman's children because they are thinking from the perspective that this is another man's children, so why should I look after them? But the thinking is that if you care about somebody, if you want to get married to somebody, they are that woman's children and you are caring for them. You're a Muslim. This is what the Sahabas used to do. But it's
Jazakallah khair, yeah. That's
it's just the Asian mentality is so bad. Is that it's just that you are looked down as the lowest in society. That you've got children. So it don't matter that if you're a domestic violence victim who had to escape, and you've got children. It's just the idea that you are the lowest of the low. We can just use and treat you badly. So, and I have been on this for many years.
I do agree with that because although people from the outside, they will treat you with empathy, but the moment you're in the marriage, everybody will look down. Look, we're looking after your children. You will really be looked down upon as that people are doing ihsan. So really,
it's a stereotype. Like we said, alhamdulillah, because of platforms like this, we are slowly breaking these stereotypes. Why it's there is because it's not very common. But whether you want to say fortunately or unfortunately, we are coming there now. As a community, we are growing to eventually come there because the divorce rates are increasing within the Muslim community. And so it's like Sister said, unfortunately, these domestic violences, before in our community, the fathers used to tell the daughters, sabr karlo and all this. But now, we have, social media and things like this, and it's coming out. Slowly, as these things are coming out, they are being addressed. It's just because it's very early stages.
We've got another
we
call
do
coming
have these
through.
stereotypes. Yes.
Sorry, I will get back to Brother Muhammad as well. We've got another caller with us. G, you're live on Salam BCR. What would you like to say?
Ji, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Two observations. One is, as I understood, that when people divorce in Islam, it is the man's responsibility to take care of the children rather than the woman's.
Absolutely.
Number one. And the second observation is that here, how practicing are we really as Muslims? We'd like to think that we're Muslims, and we carry this label around with. But when I had a opportunity to go to a couple of weddings in the last few weeks, and I'm sad to say that I knew both families very, very well. But I can
There's a bit of
only
echo.
say
There's a
that,
bit of echo coming through.
Just 1 second. Okay,
Yeah,
is that
that's
all right?
better. Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Yeah, the couples, if I was to say hand on heart how practicing they are as Muslims, I wouldn't be able to say that. And then when I find, because I engage with a lot of young people, and what I find is young men, speaking to them when they want to get married, I'm going to Pakistan to get married. The boys are going to Pakistan, they've had their fun here, but they want to go to Pakistan to get married. What happens to our girls that are born and brought up here in this country, in the UK?
Absolutely, absolutely. Jazakallah khair for your call. We'll respond to that, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. So, yeah, Brother Muhammad will give you an opportunity. MashaAllah, you've been silent for quite a while, so sorry about that. Go ahead, go on.
So, just to add to the conversation, I know your question was about the barriers, right? Originally, but I know the conversation went to women who are divorced. I think with the women who are divorced, I would say, and the difficulties around that, I would say, look, the reality is whether you're single, never married, or whether you are divorced with or without children, the marriage search is really difficult regardless. That is the honest truth. It's not just specifically that divorced sisters or brothers are finding it harder. No doubt, if you're single, never married, it's deep. If you're divorced without children, it's deeper. And if you're divorced with children, it's even more deeper. But the problem is, and I think it's been signified in the two calls that we've just had, and Mufti Sahib said this, and Mufti Sahib said this as well, it's a lack of understanding of our own religion. So to put it in simple terms, we all know that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the best example, he got married, his first wife, Khadija radiallahu anha, was who? She was a double, not a single, a double widow, right? With two children, one from one brother and one from another brother. And I know that there's a difference of opinion on age, but most people would say that she was older than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so if you look at that example, his first wife was a double widow, which is the equivalent of, I guess, divorce in some senses. And he still went ahead and married her without no issues whatsoever. So that's one thing that I would say is a lack of understanding in the society. But coming back to the question of, in today's day and age, why brothers and sisters are finding it hard to get married in terms of the obstacles and what the reasons are behind it. Very, very briefly, I mean, I did some my own research into this, and I'll give you 10 simple reasons as to why people find it hard to get married, if you allow me to. So number one,
just a moment before you launch that, we are at 5 o'clock. Are we okay for time? Are we okay to go over? Mufti Sahib, are you okay as well?
I'm okay.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll take a short break and we'll come back, and then you can do your 10 points, please. Okay, listeners, we will take a short break here. Do stay with us and keep the calls coming. So we'll see you in just a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Spot Blue International Property property agents. Looking for property in Dubai or Turkey? We have hundreds of selected properties to suit every client. If you're looking for investment property or owner-occupier, then let Spot Blue hold your hand and buy with confidence. Spot Blue, the international property experts who understand your language. Spot Blue. For a full list of properties available across the globe, check our website spotblue.com or phone 0208 339 6036. That number again, 0208 339 6036. And across all social media platforms, Spot Blue.
हमारा मिशन अल्लाह की रजा मोहम्मद से वफा पाकिस्तान का दिफा हम हैं सलाम BCR.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Mufti Taiba and you're listening to Salam BCR on Medium Wave 1566 and on salambcr.com. Please join me every Saturday 3 to 5 p.m. for a variety of Islamic related topics and Q&As.
मैं लोगों से मोहब्बत में अनाएं छोड़ देता हूँ, वफाएं याद रखता हूँ, जफाएं छोड़ देता हूँ. अस्सलाम वालेकुम दोस्तों, मैं हूँ इफ्तिखार रफी, एक्टर, राइटर, शायर और कॉलम नवीस, वीलॉगर फ्रॉम पाकिस्तान. और सलाम BCR, जी हाँ, ये है नया रेडियो चैनल जिस पे आप मेरी आवाज़ सुन रहे हैं.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मैं शहजाद पप्पू, आप सुन रहे हैं सलाम BCR.
Salam BCR, medium wave 1566 and online. Your home of entertainment. Broadcasting across Greater Manchester and beyond. Check our website, project29.org.uk.
क्या आप अपने कारोबार को फलता फूलता देखना चाहते हैं? अगर आपका जवाब हाँ में है तो आज ही इस्लाम BCR से राब्ता करें. फोन 079126226961.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Great Muslim Marriage Search with myself, Mufti Taiba Afzal, on Salam BCR, where we're joined by our special guests. So before the break, we were talking about the 10 points that you were going to mention, Brother Muhammad, the 10 barriers.
Yes. Yeah, so the research that I put in terms of my experiences over the last 4 years of dealing with hundreds, if not thousands of people who have been looking for marriage and have spoken to me directly at events or through Instagram and social media. When I talk about the 10 obstacles right now in this day and age, I would say they're the following. Number one, attraction is given an exaggerated importance, so that so many people focus solely on physical attraction that they end up saying no to people who may not, be so-called models, but they aren't bad looking themselves, if that makes sense. So I think attraction is given exaggerated importance. Number two, unrealistic criteria. I discussed this earlier, or having standards that are very, very high. To put it quite bluntly, if you want a prince or princess, please ask yourself if you yourself are a prince or princess. Absolutely. To put it quite bluntly. Number three, opposing living arrangement criteria. So many women want to live independently and many men want to live with their family. That becomes, they start locking horns and then it becomes an obstacle. Number four, involvement, unfortunately, in historical unlawful relationships. So many people who've been involved in such things, they carry a lot of mental baggage, and that they often look for their exes in their potentials, and this of course is not gonna happen. Number 5, not following the rules of Islam when looking for marriage and lack of religion in general. I think we've discussed that already. I mean, if you're going to do things in the wrong way, the result of that is not going to be positive. Number 6, kind of happened on the show just a few minutes ago, subconsciously, I'd say subconscious or unconscious bias towards the opposite sex. So we've got, men and women kind of arguing with each other. And if you argue with each other and have a problem of biasness against each other, how are you going to marry the opposite sex? Number 7, social media. Social media, as I mentioned earlier, is painting a picture that is simply fake, and looking for something that doesn't exist is obviously going to lead to a dead end. Number 8, too much choice. Having so much choice is actually proving to be detrimental. Rejecting people has now become subconscious as a habit, as some people think someone better is just around the corner, and this is just on repeat for some people. Number 9, giving careers priority. That's been a problem as well. And finally, interestingly, not knowing what one wants in a partner is also a problem. You ask someone, okay, what are you looking for in a partner? And believe it or not, they can't answer the question. Those are the 10 obstacles that I would say as to why brothers and sisters find it hard to get married.
On this last point that you mentioned about not knowing themselves, I think that's a really good point, because many times we don't really know ourselves, we don't know our personality, and so therefore we don't really know the type of person. And many times people do get married, but they again are not understanding why the other person is acting in a certain way. But there's a great book, I'm not sure if you've read it, Personality Plus for Couples. That is absolutely amazing. I think everybody should read that, whether they're married or whether they're looking for someone. It's by Florence Littauer. So she mentions different personality types. Now you might be thinking my husband is crazy because he's like this. When you read that book, you think, oh, that makes sense now. It makes total sense. This is why he's acting like this, because he's a different personality type. So that way you can really understand why you are different to your husband, or why your husband is different to you. So I think that's a really good book. Another one I would recommend is Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus by John Gray. One of the points in there he mentions is actually a point that's mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ in a hadith. So he says, women always say never, or you never do this, or we never go out. And the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned that لو أحسنت إلى إحداهن الدهر ثم رأت منك شيئا لقالت ما رأيت منك شيء منك خيرا قط. Even if you were good to her your whole life, one day she saw something, she will say, I've never seen any good from you. So that's a women's mistake in there, that we always say always or never. We can't come in the middle, and that's where we need to look. And so that book tells you about the differences between us and how we can try to overcome them. We've got another call coming through, so we'll just take that as well now. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Salam BCR. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I rang earlier but my phone got cut off. I just wanted to add to this conversation is that something that could make a difference would be the fact that if other women supported other women in the community. For example, if somebody's son is saying, I want to get married to a lady who's got kids, the mother will be like, no, you need to get married to somebody who's not been married before.
Absolutely.
So the idea needs to be that women need to be supporting others, and that way the men will be, they know that they won't have the obstacle with the family fighting against them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because sometimes we do find that it is women who are looking down upon other women, when they, for example, leave the children in the care of the father. So it will be women who are looking down upon women, causing them problems. Again, here in your example with the mother-in-law, for example, not allowing the son to get married to who he wants, for example, just because the daughter-in-law has got children. So I think women do sometimes dig the grave for ourselves. But again, I think men as well, again, we all have our faults and everything, so we all need to just try to work together and see what the Sahaba and Sahabiyat did. I think that should resolve all our issues. One of the
Absolutely. I was going to say that the main example is that when you look at the Prophet Muhammad and Hazrat Khadija, when you look at their example, I mean, that is the explanation itself, where she proposed to him and she was working, she was doing her own business, and he didn't say to her, no, you can't work, you need to do this. there was nothing like that. So that means they were so, even though it was 1,400 years ago, but they were so forward than the Asian community nowadays. And it's just such a patriarchal society where they're trying to keep women behind and then looking down on certain women. And it's just that control that they want to have, the women. You can't have your own money, you can't have your own working, you can't be standing on your own feet, because it's all about control. Because the woman they want is basically somebody who they can manipulate so that she can be their carer for their parents. That is the basic mentality of it all. That's why all this control comes from.
Okay.
So that's why we need to start questioning what's happening in our community and why certain
Absolutely.
things are going a certain way.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair for your comments, sister. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, we also got another message during the break as well, meaning also on the topic of ghaira, like why it's a problem for, why men sometimes will do the honor killings, because, okay, the woman of the house has gone astray and she's done something. Whereas, so the questioner was saying, well, what about, where's the ghaira at that time? Where's the honor at that time when the children are being looked after by your wife, your ex-wife? Where's your ghaira then to say, I should be the one who's providing for my family? So again, I think, all these things, if everybody thought about what Islam said, then none of this would happen. And one thing that I'd like to point out is, in the nikah khutbah, the 3 verses that are mentioned, the first one is Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Second verse is Ya ayyuhan nasu taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida ila akhir al-ayah. And then the third one is Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. So all of these verses, these are read at the time of marriage, and they all have one thing in common: fear Allah. Why? Why is fear Allah mentioned? Because many times people get married, and you know what? They will make all sorts of promises, but we're not thinking about fearing Allah. Are we really going to be fulfilling the rights? We just want the best thing, or the best, the most beautiful person, or the richest husband, or all these things, but we're not really thinking, can we really fulfill that person's rights? And if we did that, then there would be no problems. And of course we should be looking into ourselves first and foremost before pointing fingers. So the advice is to us first before anybody else. So one other thing I'd like to mention is about the barriers. One thing that I know that people find it really difficult, like someone will say, I want to marry this person who is, for example, Pakistani, but I'm a Gujarati, or vice versa, etc. And what will happen is the parents will disagree. So what should be done? And it happens that it carries on. The parents will not allow them until they end up doing zina. They have a child and they're suicidal. They're thinking about haram, abortion, so many issues.
These are stereotypes in our communities, and they definitely need to be addressed. And they are born from anti-socialism. The elderly community, because we live in a non-Muslim country, they don't have we see our age, young generation, mashallah. I mean, I'm not so young myself, but before the age of 40, maybe at the age of 50, you have a place to socialize. You have some friend circle, but as soon as you leave your friend circle and you become antisocial, I'm sure Brother Muhammad has experienced this, but because we are online and we have, alhamdulillah, we've got about 10,000 members on the WhatsApp groups. Some of the, obviously I will not share these with you, but some of the conversations that we have, it's so unbelievable. If they were to hear, maybe sometimes we think, are they reading what they're saying themselves? It's unbelievable, the kind of things that they say. It's unrealistic. It's unbelievable that these kind of people still exist to this day. But it just goes to show that there are people that are so far away from civilization, although they're living amongst us. They're living in central. They're living in city. But they're not with the people. They're not with time. And like you said, regarding different ethnicities, So this is a very small, it's a very old kind of stigma that we had, or at least we'd like to think it's old, but it's still relevant. There's still children that experience this kind of problems from their parents. So when it comes to it, like Brother Muhammad mentioned, he mentioned quite a few, mashallah, very realistic ones. That covers nearly all of mine. Only these are a few things. So there's a few things that come that are problematic, that the parents make issues, and then there's a few things that the bride or the husband to be make that are problematic for themselves. A lot of the times we find that the children are very advanced because they're educated and they have a social circle and they understand what kind of century they're living in. But unfortunately, the parents are not with them because they don't have a social circle. It's very much to do with social circles. I remember one of the boys, he called me and my colleague to his house to explain to his mother. And this is I'm from Bangladesh, and the boy was from Bangladesh. And in Bangladesh we have, I'm sure you have it in Pakistan as well, from Mirpur and from other areas. So we're Silatis, and then there's the Dakhai.
Different castes.
Yeah, we're not. It's just area. They're from a different city. We're from a city. So we are from Sylhet. We have slight dialect difference, not that much. And so they're from Dhaka. We're from Sylhet. It's quite a big. It's like London, and you can say, I don't know, Manchester. So they're different parts of the country. And so he wanted to get married to someone that was a Sylheti, and his mother, me and my colleagues sat down with her and him, trying to explain to her that it's absolutely fine. And she was educated, and he has no degree. She was somewhere in the biomedics, and she's got a career. He hasn't got a stable job, and he doesn't have any education. And she was explaining it to us as though her son, and rightly so, a mother will always think her son is the biggest gem and the most expensive, most valuable asset that could ever exist. And so credit to her for believing that. But when it comes to marriage, like if you can understand, so it comes from anti-socialism, because she doesn't realize that there are people. She's coming down from her level. She's a biomedics certified. She's got a degree, she's got a career, she's got her job, and he's got nothing. And he lives with his mother in a one-bedroom flat, whereas she's got a house, she's got everything going for her. There's no reason why she should marry him. But ironically, he's the one that has the issue, or his mother is the one that has the issue of saying, no, she's she knows what my son has, and that's why she wants him. So anyway, and so at the end, a few weeks later, he just said, I don't think my mother, as long as she lives, will ever approve of this marriage, and I can't live without this partner. So I've told the girl to carry on with her life, and I'm not going to get married. And so there are so many parents we've spoken to like this, who are so adamant that they would rather have their children not marry than to get married to someone that is, at least they were trying to make it halal. They were trying to make it halal,
and I think
they don't realize this.
All of these cases where it's like it takes years and years and years, and the parents are still not agreeing, and then the cases come to, they say, what should we do? And I would say, just get married, because your parents will come around. You have to keep it halal.
The level of respect that the children have for their parents, they'd rather not marry than to disappoint their children.
I know, but they will carry on in the haram. So then there's no point in respecting.
Yeah, so if they carry on, this particular case, he said, no, she can carry on and she can live her life. Okay, and he will not communicate with her. So he's given up everything for his parents. So, I mean, it's hard to ask that from a children, but what he's doing is, he's performing the best that he could. In the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's ticked all the boxes, mashallah. He's satisfied his parents, and he's overcome his need, and he said, I'll give up my needs for my parents. And mashallah, but we won't, I wouldn't advocate that practice for everyone. Yeah, because but if somebody can, that is the right way to go about it. But I know I would get a lot of backlash for that. But that is the right way to go about it, because he's trying to please his mother, and if she's too old to convince, then he'll just have to wait it out.
Okay, and apart from that, what should potential spouses do or parents do to avoid major issues in the future. So I would say one thing is, don't make false promises. People sometimes, when they really want to marry somebody, they will say yes, 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 we'll do everything. Once the person is inside, they're trapped. Now they know that's it. Now the culture will not let them escape. Now we can do anything.
Yeah, I think just to add to the conversation, that it's important for parents to support their children.
Absolutely.
This does not mean that you agree with any wrongful behavior that goes on, but I think Mufti Sahib picked up a very good point, that the truth is, when it comes to parents, they do belong, with the greatest of respect, in a different generation. So they perhaps don't fully understand or comprehend what, for example, a WhatsApp group is, or what a marriage event is. They don't understand, because when they got married, or when people were at marriageable age in their era, it was very, very different, in the sense that you had networks, and people were saying yes without perhaps even looking. There's even scenarios where in the older generation, when somebody was born, their rishta was so-called done. I'm not sure what the Islamic concept on that is, but
It's
that's what. Say again?
It's permissible, yes.
It's permissible. Okay. So, but the point is, back then, that's how mom and dads got married. But now you have a situation where things have overturned. So, when you're in that situation, and I would say to any parents that look, try your best to support your child. Have a look at at least the person that they're looking to marry, and look at it from a neutral perspective. He or she may not be right for your child. That's not a problem, but at least get to that stage, and then I think that will definitely help. But at the same time, the brothers and sisters who are looking also have to strike a balance. We often hear a case where we've got parents at our events, and they often tell us, "Oh, our child, our young daughter, she wanted to marry a guy who's on drugs, who's involved in the wrong crowd, and we're saying that we don't want her to marry him." And she's saying, but she doesn't want to marry anyone else but him. So in that case, you have to look at it from all perspectives. I mean, and I would say it's not just women that are struggling in this concept, and it's been raised quite a few times. Men, mental health, men are also in exactly the same boat. It's no longer the divorcee women that are just struggling. It's also divorcee men. It's also men who are have gone through a divorce which has been through no fault of their own as well. So I think we need to look at matters from each case on a merit by merit basis, as opposed to generalizing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally agree with that. One other thing is that I think everybody, I think you mentioned that at the start, getting to know yourself more, and also learning about the rights of the other before getting married. We need to educate ourselves that what are we getting into and what are the rights of the other. So many times, again, it's a woman's issue here. Again, that like the meher will not be paid. 7-8 years will pass by, it'll come to divorce, and the meher still hasn't been paid. And they've got children and everything going on. Things like that. That is one of the first things that we should be doing. But instead, it's never happened. And even at the last moment, they say, well, because you're asking for divorce, so therefore I will take that back as well. So I think
these are problems that root because of un-Islamic ethos and misunderstanding Islam.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from Islam itself.
Absolutely.
It's a very cultural thing.
Yeah. I was just the story of Hazrat Salman radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Abu Darda radiallahu anhu, when he was worshipping a lot and he wasn't giving his wife attention. So Hazrat Salman radiallahu anhu, as a guest, he said to him, no, you go sleep, get some rest, then we'll wake up, then we'll do tahajjud, everything. And so in the morning, Hazrat Abu Darda radiallahu anhu went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he told him the story. So the Prophet said, Sadaqa Salman. Hazrat Salman is saying the truth. And then he said, that every person has got a right. Your wife has your spouse has a right, your guest has a right, your body has a right. فَأَعْطِي كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ. Give every rightful person their right. And I think that's it. If the wives think that we need to fulfill the husband's right in all manners, then again, like the hadith says that that woman whose husband is displeased with her and he spends the night in anger, the curse will be on her. So again, that does apply. I mean, if a person is genuinely, just disobeying the husband for no good reason, of course, she needs to know as well that it is absolutely essential. We do need to obey. At the same time, the husband needs to think, this person, she is under my care and she's left her family, she's alone, okay, and I need to be fulfilling her rights, okay. If she has to leave now, the community will not let her remarry. It will be really hard for her. So it's all about really understanding everybody's rights. What else can you say about what people should do and what they should avoid?
I would say in terms of families before getting married or even after getting married, these a lot of the issues that we've discussed here is the root problem to it is that there's a lot of families now that have no kind of association or affiliation to any masjid or madrasa or imam sahab or an alim, whatever it may be. And alhamdulillah, living in England, everyone has gone through a maktab system or has had some kind of a teacher who taught them qaida or Quran, who is a qualified alim. If everyone can connect with their imams, not just at the point of divorce and at the point of nikah, but to have a regular communication with the imams, regular communication, and develop, like I said, when it comes to nikah, it's the actual purpose of nikah is to develop our taqwa together, collectively. And all these problems of problems in the house, problem with parents, problems with living, problem with mahar, all of these are just lack of taqwa. It's emptiness of taqwa. You're distant, you're so far away from Islam, you don't even realize. I mean, I've alhamdulillah, we do the nikah service as well, and it's very sad to see what like we're discussing this because there's a huge problem where people can't find a partner to get married to. And so they make this dua and everything, and they go through the halal way. Everything happens halal, but at the point of marriage, there's nothing Islamic about the marriage itself. The only part is where I walk in and say, nakahtuha, qabiltuha, and as soon as I walk out, I can hear it. I can hear all the masti has started.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's the far that we are, how further away we are from deen, that is the root cause. There's nothing else. I mean, everyone knows Islamically, all the guidance, all the teaching is there. It's just we're not practicing it. Why are we not practicing it? Because we're so far from it that majority of the Muslims don't know what is halal, what is haram. They don't know. Either they don't know or they know and they're just not, they don't have that level of taqwa to be able to avoid the haram and still enjoy their lives.
Absolutely. Last few points is I would say that when you are being pressurized by your family, and I've heard it with a few people where even after it's the second or third marriage, still the family members are actually being violent to them, forcing them to get married to somebody. But what they need to do is look, it is wrong. Whatever they're doing absolutely is wrong, but don't bend under the pressure. Don't marry somebody that you do not want to get married to. At the end of the day, your parents will not be happy when you are not happy. They want you to be happy. So although they will be displeased now, but no matter how much force somebody is using, even if it's a man or a woman, if you agree just because of force, you're going to be causing problems for yourself, for your wife, for your children, everybody's life.
It's not fair on the partner that you get married to. It's not fair on them.
You must just do the right thing. And if you're able to let go of your wishes, absolutely do that. But if you know you can't, then don't just fall under the pressure. Lastly, I'd like to recommend some kitabs. There's one in Urdu, Islami Shadi by Mullah Ashraf Ali Thanvi. I think that's a really good book. One tip he did say is that do aurtein ek chhat ke niche nahi reh sakti. He said that the moment you get married, you should move out, because he said two women cannot survive under one roof. So that's a really good kitab. The other one is Tuhfa Dulha, which is also in English as well. Gift to the groom, Mullah Hanif Abdul Majid. So that's a good book as well. Any other books that you'd like to recommend?
I would like to recommend a scholar that is amongst us now, Mufti Abdurrahman Mangera's marriage book. I don't remember the book's name from the top of my head, but he's a prominent scholar, Mufti Abdurrahman Mangera, and he's written a book, and mashallah, he addresses these contemporary issues and how to resolve them and what the expectations are.
Okay.
It's quite practical approaches. I'd recommend that one.
Okay, inshallah. Anything from yourself, Mullah Muhammad? Brother Muhammad?
I would say, I mean, I don't know of any books I would recommend, but I would say that based on the conversations we've had today, and I always encourage it, that there are plenty of these out there attending marriage courses, not about, whether you're married or not, attending a course from an Islamic perspective to understand, like you guys have mentioned, what the rights of the opposite, husband and wife include, and what things that you should be doing as a husband or as a wife post-marriage. I think this is really important to put things into perspective before you've got married, so that you know your ins and outs and rights and wrongs within the marriage. And if you can execute what you learn from before marriage and execute it in the marriage, it can only result in positive.
But it's never too late. You can still learn it up even after you.
Absolutely. So like I said, that book, the Personality Plus, is a really good one. Whether you're married or not, that one will, I think that will dispel all the differences, because you will just understand why that person is acting in that particular way. Also, we do actually have a special discount which is only available because of today's program by Mufti Saiful Islam. So it's JKN Publications, and it's 10% off any items until the 1st of September. So you just need to go onto jkn.org. The link is in the description. The code that you will need is marriage. That's the code, and you will get 10% off. So Jazakallah khair to Mufti Saiful Islam as well for that. We just arranged that yesterday. Anything else that you would like to mention? Any with your services and your program, Brother Muhammad? You said you've got a program tomorrow.
Yeah, so we have one of our marriage events tomorrow, and alhamdulillah, tickets pretty much have sold out. We've got a few female tickets available. We've got a few male tickets available. So inshallah, if you are looking for marriage and you're British, click the link on our website. singlemuslimsmarriageevents.co.uk is our website, and you can still attend. As I said, we've got very limited spaces left. But I mean, last points I will say is just that, look, if you're looking for marriage, the very first thing that you do is look at yourself in the mirror and try to apply or incorporate sincerity within yourself, because at the end of the day, a good person, a good man is for a good woman, and the other way around, as our religion states. And if you are good, you're inshallah gonna get good, and that's a general principle of life. And if it doesn't happen, that's qadarullah. But the point is, you should look at yourself and try to be as good as possible to produce good results in your marriage, or in any walk of life.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair. Anything from yourself, Mufti?
With Sunnah Nikah, it's sunnahnikah.org.uk. We provide, so the WhatsApp service is absolutely free. Other than that, we do provide more tailored and personalized services. WhatsApp service is much more on a personal, you've got to do more manual work. You've got to do the work yourself. If you do want, we do have admins that work official times. They filter all our database and search for you and find you matches. Those are obviously, they come at a price because the admins are there doing the work. There's different levels. There's silver, gold, and platinum. So the different levels, according to what you need, they will find you the spouses on a monthly basis. They find you a match, and then it's up to you whether you like the match and you want to take it further. So those are all there on sunnahnikah.org.uk.
Okay, and those are the paid ones, the paid services.
They're the paid ones, yes.
That's fine. Okay, Jazakallah khair for to our guests. We totally appreciate your time and your patience with us. So do join me again next time for my Sahaba Ke Waqiyat program and other great programs like today's, every Saturday 3 to 5 p.m. on Salam BCR. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
और सुन रहे हो? जी हाँ, इसी तरह हजारों और भी सुनने वाले हैं। आपके कारोबार की कामयाबी का राज सलाम BCR। सुनते रहिए सलाम BCR।
This is Project Radio online.